Everyone tells you, figure it out first, then begin. Plan it, map it, wait until you're ready. But here's what that advice quietly does. It turns your whole life into a waiting room. The Buddha never taught us to wait for clarity before we moved. He saw something we keep missing. The thinking mind loves to stall. It calls hesitation wisdom. Today I want to share a different way. Not reckless, not rushed, but alive. Because the path doesn't appear before you walk it. It appears because you do. In the heart of spring, a single tree stood in the garden of Jetavana Monastery. The disciples had gathered nearby, sitting in quiet stillness. Each time the wind passed through, white petals fell, one, then another, drifting slowly to the ground. The tree had only begun to bloom a few days before. It wasn't asking any questions. It wasn't in any hurry. It simply stood there, open, without any wish to be noticed. The Buddha sat beneath the tree, eyes closed, breathing softly. And then one disciple approached. There was something urgent in his face, a restlessness he was trying to contain. He opened his mouth, closed it again, and at last lowered himself slowly to his knees, as though the words inside him were too heavy to carry standing up. What passed between the Buddha and this disciple that day, it still finds its way into our hearts, all these centuries later. The disciple had carried his question for 3 years, through 2 monsoons and a winter that cracked the riverbanks. Yet when the petal fell between them, landing on the back of his hand, he simply looked at it and did not speak. The answer had already arrived, quiet as snowfall, before the question could find its door. The disciple's name was Malunkyaputta. He was a brilliant man, learned, precise, someone who knew how to ask exactly the right question. But it was that very brilliance that had been slowly tormenting him. That morning, he approached the Buddha and began, "Teacher, there is something I must ask, something I have carried for a long time." The Buddha, without opening his eyes, said softly, "Then speak. Is the world eternal, or will it one day end? Does the soul die with the body, or does it continue on? After death, where does an enlightened being go, or does he go nowhere at all?" Teacher, I have walked this path of practice without ever receiving answers to these questions, and I cannot go on like this. If you will not answer me, I may have no choice but to leave this life behind and return to the world. When he finished, Malunkyaputta let out a long breath. There was relief in finally saying it aloud, and beneath that relief, a quiet fear that still no answer might come. The Buddha was silent for a moment. Wind moved through the branches above them. The single white petal let go and floated down. Then slowly the Buddha spoke. "Malunkyaputta, did I ever say to you, 'Come to me and I will answer these questions'?" The disciple shook his head. "No, you never said that." "That's right, I made no such promise." The Buddha continued, his voice calm and unshakable. "Then let me tell you a story. A man is struck by a poisoned arrow. His companions rush toward him, ready to pull it free, but the man stops them. 'Wait,' he says, 'first I must know who fired this arrow. What is his name? How tall is he? What wood was the bow made from? What bird's feathers are on this arrow?' He demands answers to every question before he allows the arrow to be removed." Malunkyaputta listened without a word. "That man will die before he ever gets his answers." "Malunkyaputta, your questions are exactly like that. Whether the world is eternal or not, your practice doesn't depend on knowing. Whether the soul continues after death or not, living fully in this present moment doesn't depend on knowing. And yet there you are with an arrow still in your body, questioning where it came from. But teacher, why won't you simply answer me?" A faint smile seemed to cross the Buddha's face. "Because answering would not remove your suffering. Even if you knew the world were eternal, your pain would not disappear. Even if you knew the soul goes on, your ache right now would not change. What I teach is this: what is suffering, what gives rise to it, and where the path out of it lies. Nothing beyond that is what you need right now." Malunkyaputta fell quiet. From somewhere in the garden, another petal came loose and drifted down. It didn't answer any question. It didn't argue for anything. It simply fell. The Buddha said one last thing: "A flower does not wait until the mysteries of the world are solved before it blooms. It blooms here, now, in this moment. That is all." Malunkyaputta sat with those words for a long time, the way a stone sits at the bottom of a clear stream. not moving, but slowly being shaped. When he finally rose to leave, he did not walk away with answers. He walked away lighter, as a man walks when he has set down something heavy he had forgotten he was carrying. The questions Malunkyaputta couldn't stop asking. They connect, at a very deep level, to something most of us carry too. Why am I suffering like this? When will this pain end? Does my life mean anything at all? We roll these questions around in our minds while somewhere in the background, the present moment quietly waits, and we never quite arrive in it. Here is the thing the Buddha was pointing to. The suffering doesn't come from having questions. It comes from a decision we've quietly made somewhere inside, that we cannot bloom until the answers come. Look at this closely for a moment. At the heart of Malunkyapputta's suffering was a belief he held tightly. If I don't understand the ultimate truth of the universe, I cannot walk the right path. That belief had become a knot inside him. And so, for as long as the answer eluded him, he stayed suspended, unable to take the next step, unwilling to move forward. The suffering wasn't being caused by the questions themselves. It was being caused by an inner rule. I cannot act until I have answers. This is something that lives in modern life too, right here, right now, in us. I can't move forward until I know who I really am. I can't solve this problem until I understand where it comes from. I can't give myself fully to life until I know what life is for. And so we wait. Days pass, flowers bloom and fall, and still we wait. What the Buddha was saying in the story of the poisoned arrow wasn't, throw your questions away. He was saying, questions have their place. But before you get to them, there's an arrow already in your body that needs to come out first. There's another layer here worth sitting with. We tend to think of ourselves as something fixed and solid, a real, stable self somewhere inside that we need to find. There's a true me, I just have to discover it. But in the Buddha's view, the self we think of as I isn't a fixed thing. It arises moment by moment from the conditions around us, a temporary shape, not a permanent one. At the core of Malunkyapputta's question, does the soul continue on, was exactly that assumption, that there is a self which doesn't change, which must be protected and known. And the Buddha, very gently, was shaking that assumption loose. The tighter we grip a fixed idea of who we are, the more frightening change becomes, the more unbearable it feels when answers don't arrive. But what if the self were never quite as solid as we thought? Then perhaps the resistance to blooming right now would be just a little lighter. A flower never asks, what am I? It blooms in the conditions it finds itself in. That is the flower's way. And perhaps this is why the Buddha returned again and again to the image of a lamp. Not a lamp lit by certainty, but a lamp lit by the small, honest action available to you, right now, in this very room, in this very body. The monk who got up before dawn to sweep the temple steps didn't know the nature of the cosmos. He simply swept, and in the sweeping, something in him grew quiet, then clear, then free. So what does this look like inside the actual texture of our lives today? Here's the first scene. Picture it. Someone younger than you gets promoted, or a friend your own age seems to be living a life that looks richer, more settled, more complete, and something stirs in your chest. What am I even doing? Is this the right direction? Was the path I chose actually the right one? The questions don't go away, and while they linger, you find yourself unable to take the next step. But if you sit with it quietly, where does that restlessness actually come from? Often it comes from a story running underneath. I should be somewhere else by now. As if the person standing here in this moment is somehow not yet the real version. As if the real you is somewhere out there, waiting to be found. The poisoned arrow might not be the comparison itself. It might be the quiet conviction that you haven't yet earned the right to bloom where you're standing. Pause. The second scene is found in parenting. You say something to your child, and it doesn't land. You explain it again, and they do the same thing anyway. Each time, something inside you chips away a little more. Am I a good parent? Am I actually shaping this child's future well? Those questions are honest ones. They come naturally with the love you carry, but they become heavy when they quietly tip into, until I can prove I'm a good parent, my worth today doesn't count. Your child is living in this moment, not yesterday's version of themselves, not tomorrow's. They are here, in today. And perhaps one way of blooming is simply to be present with them in this specific, unrepeatable day. pause. The third scene appears in aging. Your body doesn't move the way it once did. You feel the edges of memory softening. Things you meant to do years ago surface in your mind with a kind of ache. I should have started sooner. It's too late now. In those moments, the mind pulls hard toward the past or reaches anxiously into the future. But what the Buddha pointed to in the story of the poisoned arrow was this: the arrow is not lodged in your past or your future. It is in your body, right now in this moment. What are you feeling right now? Who are you with right now? What can you see right now? Even an old tree blooms. The shape of the bloom may change, but the fact of blooming, here now, does not. You don't have to be the true you. You don't have to be the finished you. The you that is here in this moment, in these conditions, that you can bloom. And that, the Buddha seemed to be saying, is where the path begins. A monk once asked his teacher, "When will I be ready to teach others?" The teacher pointed to a candle already burning on the altar. When did that flame decide it was ready to give light? The flame did not wait until it understood fire. It did not pause to confirm that its warmth was worthy. It simply burned, in that room, on that night, for whoever happened to be present. So what might you do starting today? Just one thing. If there are questions circling in your mind right now, why am I like this? What's going to happen? What does that person think of me? Try writing them down. Don't organize them. Don't edit them. Just let them out onto the page, exactly as they come. Once you've written them, look at what you've written and ask yourself just one question. If I got the answer to this, would my pain actually go away? Most of the time, honestly, the answer is probably not entirely. Knowing whether the world is eternal wouldn't have changed the way Malankiputta walked his path. In the same way, getting the answer to many of the questions we carry wouldn't touch the root of what's hurting us. When you notice that, gently shift your gaze. Ask instead, what is the arrow that's actually in me right now? Not the question in your head, but the thing in your body that's quietly aching. Are you exhausted? Do you need to say something to someone? Do you simply need silence? Tend to that first. What the Buddha encouraged his disciples to do was return to the breath. Before trying to solve anything, come back to what is actually here. Breathe in, breathe out, quietly again and again. I won't promise that this makes suffering disappear, but returning to this moment, even briefly, may offer you one small step out of the loop of carrying an arrow while asking where it came from, instead of letting it be removed. Flowers don't hold questions, they are simply rooted in now, and they bloom. We may not be able to do exactly that, but we can choose just once today to come back to now. That's enough to begin. A monk once said that even the small act of placing both feet flat on the floor and feeling the ground beneath them was for him the beginning of coming home. Not enlightenment, just 2 feet, 1 floor, 1 ordinary moment. That is where it starts. Not somewhere grand, but here. And perhaps that is all we need to remember on the days when everything feels too large to hold. A woman once told me that during the hardest year of her life, the only practice she could manage was washing her hands slowly, really feeling the water, really feeling the soap, once each morning. She said it didn't fix anything, but it kept her tethered, like a single thread still connecting her to the world she was living in. If there is a question you've been turning over and over in your mind, are you waiting for it to be answered before you allow yourself to bloom? Or are you already blooming today, even without the answer? There's no rush. Just sit with that, quietly, for a little while. A farmer does not demand that the seed explain its flowering before he tends the soil and offers water. He simply bends down, clears away the stones, and trusts what he cannot yet see. And perhaps that is enough. To bend down, to clear away what is in the way, and to keep showing up to the field. There was once an old monk who sat each morning by an unlit lantern, not because he was waiting for someone to bring the flame, but because he had learned that the sitting itself was a kind of light. By the time the sun rose, he was already warm. To bloom like a flower, we must also understand the other end of that cycle, the art of releasing. We explored that very teaching through the autumn leaves in an earlier episode, and you'll find the link waiting in the description below. What became of Malankiputta after that conversation? The ancient texts don't tell us very much. But if something shifted in him in that silence, I don't think it was because his questions were finally answered. I think it was because he understood for the first time that he had never needed to wait for them. In the garden that day, petals continued to fall. They weren't asking to be seen, they weren't waiting for anyone's permission. They fell because that is what petals do, quietly, completely, in their own time. Our lives may not be so different. We cannot wait until every question is settled before we begin to live them. Even now, with something still lodged inside us, even now, a flower can bloom. Thank you for being here today and listening to this story. Whatever questions you're carrying right now, I'm glad you spent this time here. Please, don't wait too long for the answers. Right where you are standing, from exactly that place you are allowed to bloom. Where that bloom will go, how long it will last, no one can say for certain. But that it bloomed here today, that is real. That is enough. I believe that is what the Buddha was quietly telling us. And perhaps that is what Malunkyaputta finally understood. Walking back through that same garden, the ground still damp beneath his feet. Not that the questions had dissolved, but that he had taken one step, and then another, and the path had held him anyway. May that be true for each of us as well. One step, and then another. The ground, more often than we expect, holds. Whose face came to mind while you were listening today? One story a day. In a week, your words will change. In a month, your eyes will change. In a year, the same world will look completely different.